Before that, I'd been doing charity work here,
Sure.
where I bring over like clothes, school materials for children up in the province, up in Binti, in the village that my grandfather is from. And so this opportunity to think, wow, actually, if the government's focused on helping young people, this is where I would want to be.
Boom! What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Djelis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living here in West Africa. And if you want to know about the kind of talent that comes from the UK to Sierra Leone and goes back and forth, the kind of people that you meet here in Sierra Leone, then this is the video for you. Okay, cool. So today we're meeting up with Alim Kamara. Alim is an artist. He raps. He also does like spoken word. He also teaches stories to children. He's an all-around teacher, whether it's through music or through spoken word and through teaching and instruction with children. He has spent a lot of time in the UK. He comes back to Sierra Leone often. He actually was introduced to a number of people through the First Lady, where he ended up getting to meet many other people and bring his talents and ideas to Sierra Leone. I'm really excited to bring his story to you guys. There's so much more to tell. This is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. He and I are gonna be meeting again and doing a part 2 to this interview, but you guys definitely gotta hear what this guy has to say. So you know what, without further ado, let's just check it out. Today, I'm in Sierra Leone and I got a special guest. His name is Alim Kamara.
What's up, man, brother?
Yes, of course. Thaning you for doing this.
Love, man. Thank you for having me.
So Alim, can you tell those who might not be who are familiar with you, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
So my name is Alim Kamara, as you've been told, and I am a hip-hop artist and an African storyteller from the UK who is looking at ways to move to Sierra Leone, bounce back and forth and make this happen. Nice,
nice. And you guys know that I've been interviewing people who are either here on the continent, are moving or planning to move. And I thought, you know, Alim's story was interesting. We met through a mutual friend. We actually met at the chemist party. And if you guys will see a video about that at some point, that place was packed. You know, it was a good time, but it was crazy and packed. But yeah, so we met there. Our mutual friend said that we definitely have to talk. And even just in our brief conversations, I thought this is gonna be great for those of you out there who are watching. So let's jump right into it. Let's start from the beginning. You know, obviously you are a storyteller in many different ways, through music and then through audio stories. But let's go all the way back to the beginning. So you mentioned that you're British. Are you a British citizen?
I am British-Sierra Leonean, but I was born in the UK.
You were born in the UK, okay.
In the UK,
Okay, so how often were you coming back growing up throughout the years?
Well, I born in the UK, came here when I was about 2 years old.
Okay.
And then I was in between Freetown and up in the province in Binti till I was about 8 years old.
Okay.
And then from there moved back to UK and just did school there. And
okay.
Yeah.
So what brought you back?
After the war, coming back and seeing family, the sunshine, the people, the culture, the melanin, it's just refreshing to be around your people. It's just something that there's something, I think you said in one of your vlogs, where it's just being around your people, you feel so comfortable. You don't feel like an alien.
You feel like home.
Yeah.
It feels like home.
It just feels that it is home, you know, and you get that feeling, and then eventually you start thinking the thoughts. Oh, what would it be like if I was to live back home? And initially you're just playing with the thought. And eventually you just start doing silly moves to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I relate 100%. I think for me, it's a very similar story. When you decided to come back, how did you make that decision? What did you decide that you wanted to do here? Like how, you know, when you said, okay, I'm gonna start coming back more often.
Right.
And you said, you know, I think you mentioned like, it sounded like it was kind of on a whim, right? You just decided to start coming back. So did you know what you wanted to do here, like career-wise, or were you coming and just exploring? Like how did all of that come about?
Drum roll. So whilst I was in the UK performing, I knew Madam First Lady. She's like a sister.
Okay.
So this was a time when she was an actress, host.
Right, yeah.
And we hosted a couple of events together. And I remember whilst they were campaigning, she asked me to come and do a performance at an event. So I did the performance. And after the performance, it went really well.
Okay.
And then she said, pray my husband wins so I can bring Alim Kamara to Sierra Leone.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
So then one day I get a phone call. It's like, yo, have you heard? I'm like, what? Like, Fatima's husband is president. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So I pick up the phone and I phone her and I'm like, yo, sis, congratulations. Because in the past we'd spoken about the youth in Sierra Leone, we'd spoken about the industry in Sierra Leone, the arts and the creative arts in Sierra Leone. And I was like, congratulations. And you know, she was like, are you coming over? I'm like, I'm considering.
Yeah.
And I actually flew over and I did the inauguration.
Oh, nice.
So I performed at the inauguration.
Nice. Okay.
And then I performed, I performed after Davido the next day at the president's birthday party.
Okay.
You know, which is like, why you put me after Davido?
Yeah. But that's a big honor.
Yeah.
Right?
It was.
That's
And I was just like, I accept the challenge.
Yeah.
Came on, did my thing. And then from there, it was a case of hearing about the government's plans to help and inspire young people.
Right.
And so before that, I'd been doing charity work here where I bring over like clothes, school materials for children up in the province, up in Binti, in the village that my grandfather is from.
Yeah.
And so this opportunity to think, wow, actually, if the government's focused on helping young people, this is where I would want to be. Especially if I'm doing it, I'm traveling around the world, doing it in other countries.
Right.
Why not come and also support back home?
Yeah.
And what was probably the most painful thing for me, so there's the hip hop side. I'm gonna go to the storytelling side.
Sure.
Starting to do performances in school here and realizing that storytelling, the traditional art, which made what the French called the griots, and kora player by the name of Sanjali corrected me.
Yeah.
It was like, we don't use the word griot, we are Djelis. It's like griot is the French word, but it's the most common word that people use.
Sure.
So when I started performing in the schools, it's like it was fresh for the children.
Right.
Like, this is not supposed to be. This is,
Right.
we
This is
grew
our
up
culture.
as storytellers.
Right,
You know, we would sit around campfires, we would sit around chamming granates.
Right,
I'm just going into my Krio there.
Yeah.
With a cham granate, chewing peanuts.
Yeah.
And telling stories. And so a teacher turned around to me after I'd performed one and she was like, you know, we don't really tell stories as animated as you do.
Right.
But seeing how you've told stories and seeing the way the children have engaged and what they've learned from the stories, I think it's important that we implement it into what we do with the children. And I was like, that's what it's all about.
Nice.
So for me, being here is resurrecting the quieter art, because I don't want to say dead art, the quieter art of storytelling in a way which builds self-esteem, which creates a sense of community, helps to build empathy, helps with cognitive thinking, helps with confidence, if I haven't said that already. When you see children perform and they express themselves on stage,
Absolutely.
bro, it's like the most quietest student can come to life, and just from using this art form, which is from our ancestors.
Right.
I'll give you an example. So I can't talk about storytelling, not tell a story.
Of course.
So when I say story, you say story. Story. Aha. There was once a snail. And this snail, my brother, took 7 years just to cross the road.
Okay.
7 whole years. As soon as it got to the other side, a tree fell down and landed. Bam! And just missed the snail.
Okay.
The snail turned around. That took the snail about 2 weeks just to turn around. And the snail went, phew, it sure is good to be fast. Now, I tell that story to children. Then I ask them the question, was that snail slow or was it fast? And then they start to go into conversation and debate. It was slow, it was fast, it was slow, it was fast. And then, why is it slow? Is it turbo? You know? And then some of them go, well, how can it take 7 years to cross the road? And then as the storyteller, I'm going in telling the story. And then one day, this was recently, a child went, and I'd never thought of this in my life, like all the years telling this story. A child went, well, I guess it depends how big the road is. So, you know what I'm saying? So we will go, that's a long, It's like, but hold on. And his imagination got to
Right.
work.
Right.
He got thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's storytelling. Conversations that's happening. What did we learn from the story? What's the moral of the story?
Right.
And then looking at, okay, if you don't get somewhere by the pace that people expect you to get there, are you dumb? Are you silly? Are you smart? Are you clever? Are you good enough?
Right.
So then you're sparking conversation with the
Right.
children.
Right.
And for me, that's the element of storytelling that I would like to bring over to Sierra Leone.
I love that. I love that. So on that topic of storytelling, because I mean, obviously you're so passionate about it and so good at it, right? Clearly. Did you do this for a living? Is this like your day job, you would say, in the UK? And what exactly are you doing there?
Yeah.
And then let's talk about how it's going to manifest itself here, but let's start in the UK.
Cool. So UK, I would call myself a motivational speaker because I was like, ain't nobody booking no storyteller.
Sure.
But then in my last year of uni, I did creative and media writing.
Okay.
And in my last year, my lecturer suggested that I do a storytelling module. And from the storytelling module, I didn't even know such a thing existed. I was taught by a lady called Sharlene Clayton, who I didn't know at the time was this big storyteller. And from there, I would still call myself a motivational speaker.
Okay.
Because I thought, you know, and then I got booked to go overseas in Argentina as a storyteller.
Okay.
And I must have done about 15 to 17 schools, over 50 workshops within the space of 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I was like, bruh. I'm in my African attire with my African drum being embraced. And I was like, I ain't never calling myself no more. I'm an African storyteller.
Absolutely.
Like, it made me realize that you can do this. And I changed the name of my company. It was called ATG Empire at the time, which is Accelerate to Greatness. And I changed the name of the company to Story. And the idea behind story as well is like, do you want a story or do you want a story? And then you go story. So it's like, what's the choice? And then in Sierra Leone, actually, they say il, owl, and then they say in, out, as well as a call and response. And it's a way of grabbing people to say, hey, the storyteller is ready. Are you guys ready to receive? So you see how you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
You know, in your channel,
Absolutely,
it's like, that's your, hey guys, I'm back. And it's like that energy that you give.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then from there, I just started contacting schools. I started following around people that did similar works, who were motivational speakers, but then I would come on and do like a little 5-minute slot, you know, in the middle of their, you know, in the middle of their set or something. Yeah. And then one day they would be like, I can't make this session. Can you cover it? What do you mean, bro? Like, you know.
And like, how long of a session would it be?
An hour, sometimes a whole day.
Wow. Okay.
But it would start off with about an hour. But when you're used to just doing 5 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
You know
5 minutes to an hour is a very big difference.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
And so with doing that and seeing the way people from other races loved, when I say love, the culture, the tradition, because it's new, it's unique, it's vibrant to them, just made me think, yo, how am I doing this where I'm currently based? What about home? And then when I started inquiring, it was like a struggle to give me names of the storytellers based here.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
so this is why we're here.
That's why we're here. I mean, and this is the thing I think that's super important about Sierra Leone, and even moving back to at least West Africa as a whole, is that we have to do all of these things, right? These things aren't in place now. So we are building them from the beginning, right? It's all ground zero. But I mean, that means that there's so much green grass ahead. We get to decide how it goes, not another culture, not another race. It's up to us. So I love this. You know, this is why I wanted to interview you, because I love talking to people who are, you know, we're Sierra Leonean, we've lived in the diaspora, but we're deciding to come back and to make a difference and to make a change, right? So back on that, because you dropped a couple of like really like a bunch of gems. One of the things that you dropped there, which was just so nonchalant, was meeting the now First Lady, right? And then having you come and perform after. I didn't want to stop you in your flow. But so, you know, you talked about doing the workshops. You went to Argentina.
Right.
How do we get to the point where you meet the now First Lady in the UK, where she comes to the point where she's asking you now to come to perform at the inauguration? So how did you guys meet? How did all of that happen?
So Fatima B.O. was, she was a like Nollywood actress.
Right.
Back in the day, you know, before she became First Lady.
Right, yeah.
And
First Lady of Sierra Leone, by the way.
First Lady of Sierra Leone, yeah. And she actually, at an event, she gave me an award once.
Okay.
You know, so it's like we were seeing each other on the, I don't call it the circuit, so to speak, the Sierra Leonean circuit.
Yeah.
And we hosted a couple of events together as well in the past. So it's more or less like that kind of, that relationship got built in terms of like a brother sisterhood type of thing, you know. And she, somebody who's supported my work in terms of encouragement as well. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Alim, I see your work, keep going, it's really good. And I'm like, oh, it's, you know, pretty dope. Yeah. And so when she came over, she spoke about the work that I do to people who she was working with. Okay. And so when I arrived, people were like, oh, First Lady has mentioned you. I'm like, me? Hey. That's dope. You know, so, you know, that was, it's pretty awesome to have the First Lady of Sierra Leone mention you in conversation. And I've always literally said to her, I'm like, look, whatever it takes for us to help our young people, I'm down. You know, whatever it takes.
That's awesome. And I know that she's also big on the youth, right? She talks about that a lot publicly from what I hear.
Yes.
So you want to start doing more workshops within the schools here, right? You know, there's been a lot of talk about that from a lot of people over time, you know, and this is something that is challenging with Sierra Leone, is that a lot of people come back and they have the idea, but they're not as passionate. They just think it's a good idea to do, right? But I hear it in your passion, you're already doing it. So what's the plan? So the plan is to just as many schools as you can. Are you looking to start these kinds of programs? Like, because I know that in the US, you know, growing up in the US, one of the first program that was ever cut from every school when they didn't have funding was arts and entertainment, right?
Definitely.
And so are you looking to try to start to build some kind of arts programs in these schools and get these kids? Because as you mentioned, you know, they light up, you know, like you said. I mean, Beyonce is a good example, right? If you didn't know she was Beyonce, you just met her, you would never think she even has an alter ego, right? Sasha Fierce, right? If you met her as her and you didn't know she was her, you would never know who she could be on stage. But she had a father who was big on pushing that and helped her to develop it in her formative years, and she became who she became. I really think those things are important here in this country, and I don't see enough of it. So it sounds to me like that's where you're going with this, right? And talk to us about like what you see as the vision for this.
Well, I think one of the things that took so long for me to come over here was the contacts.
Okay.
So it's really important to know who's already doing this work. Who's doing similar work in terms of, or who's connected with schools. So for example, there's a lady by the name of Yakama, she has a foundation.
Okay.
So she was looking at encouraging young people to be reading.
Okay.
So then it was like, oh, storyteller. Do you know what I mean? And she was giving away like portable libraries.
Okay.
Yeah, in schools, like deprived schools. And so it was like, with accompanying that, it's like, oh, got some entertainment for you, show you the power of storytelling. Then I get to share my journey where storytelling has taken me. And so it becomes more than just telling stories, like finding those connections with people who are in places, and then being like, hey, I'm here, guys, this is what I do. And then so it was interesting is when people have heard or seen some of your work. I've seen you somewhere. And that's really probably the coolest thing, whether it's 100%. My hip hop or my storytelling. So people seeing my stuff. So I would say if you can make contacts before you arrive somewhere, somebody knows somebody that can connect you. You know that, what is it? How many degrees of separation? I can't remember. But
I think it's like 6, right? You know, or 2 degrees of separation. I think it's 2. Because like, I mean, there's 7 billion people on the planet, but through 2 people you meet. I mean, look, we met through someone who I met through my mother who went to college with her mom, right? And this was 50 years ago. They went to college together. And, you know, so it all happens like that. And I think that Sierra Leone is such a small place in the sense that it's not just who you know, it's who knows what you do, and who knows what you do well, right? Because they always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I think it's a step further than that. It's who you know, but it's who knows what you do and what you do well. Because it's when they start having those conversations about you when you're not around, and somebody says, I need someone who does this, and that person can say, you know what, somebody just told me I know someone who can do that. That's hugely important. So telling your story, getting out in front of more people, getting to meet people here, I think is hugely important. And in Sierra Leone, we love to support each other.
Definitely.
That's the big thing about this community here is all of us expats, or actually diasporans, we want to make sure that we all succeed, because when we succeed, the country succeeds. And so I think that's all hugely important.
If I could share with you, there's a gentleman by the name of Sharlene Hector.
Okay.
Playwright, master storyteller, Don, you know, and he's done some amazing works. And so whilst I was on my search, I'm like, I need to find who are the gurus. Yeah. Because I want to be a humble student and come and find the grandpapas, grandmamas of the game. Right. So then that Charlie's name came up. So I go to meet Charlie, we have a conversation, and I'm like, take me on as your student. Okay. You know what I mean? Nice. Like, I want to sit with you, I want to learn from you humbly, because your experience, what you do, it starts dropping gems on me, little nuggets, and I'm like, no, you are one of the, you know what I mean, that ones who I want to sit with. Then one day I'm sitting with my mum. Mum goes, you see the work you're doing? I want you to meet this gentleman. His name is Charlie Hefner. I said, Charlie? He's like, yeah, Charlie Hefner. We knew each other from school, and he knew your father.
Oh, wow. Wow. Bro, that's crazy.
Like, my dad passed when I was 9.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I called Charlie up, and I'm like, Charlie. I'm like Mr. Hefner at the time, because now he's like, I can call him Charlie. Yeah. I'm like, Mr. Hefner, like, you knew my dad. Get into the names and then the boom, boom, boom. It's like, yeah, da-da-da-da. And the other day we were having a conversation, I was almost emotional, and I'm like, you walked with my dad, like you guys played, you guys walked hand in hand, like arms around each other and play, like you knew my dad, bro. Right. And now here I am.
It's so crazy.
With you.
And randomly, right? It's not.
Tell me if that is.
You weren't put together.
Story,
you look. You searched them out. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
So those things happening, just make it more. It becomes more spiritual now. Right. It's like, this is not no coincidence now. Absolutely. You know. So and when things like that happen, they make you go, okay, ancestors, I hear you. I hear. Yeah. I hear. Yeah, exactly. I obey. I hear. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story. I mean, nothing happens by accident, right? I always say that. I think, there's divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, but there's something that's making this all happen. Right. But you have to be intentional, right? You were intentional. Definitely. You knew what you wanted. Yeah. You started seeking those folks, and it's all coming into play. Right. This is awesome. All right, so I want to pivot a little bit into the music, because that's also part of the storytelling.
Yes.
So let's talk about your music. So because you also mentioned, okay, so you were getting an award, but you were also asked to perform. So you're a storyteller in different ways, right? You're a storyteller without music, and you're a storyteller with music. Or do you use music in your workshops?
I do sometimes. So I do use music sometimes.
But let's talk about the music, right? Because I over the last 6 years really started listening to more of our local artists in Sierra Leone, and of course all over West Africa and on the continent, period. So I'm still new, I was listening to American hip hop music, right? Until very recent, literally the last 6 years. Right. So what are your inspirations? What got you into music? What is your music like? I got multi-layer questions, but let's start with your inspirations for music, and what's your music like?
Cool. So when I left Sierra Leone, went back to the UK, there's no storytellers. Right. But my cousin Obwe introduces us to hip hop. Okay. And I'm talking today's topic is self-destruction. It's one or two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. Yeah. Then it's NWA, KRS-One, Tupac, Pop. I'm like, God, this? Yeah. Evolved form of storytelling. Okay. And I fall in love with hip hop. Yeah. Because when you arrive in the UK back in those days, it was you were an alien. Right. And so hip hop spoke to us. Yeah. And they said, because if you're 10 years old and you're walking down the road and the police pull over, you just what the heck? You look for representation on TV. There's nothing for you. Right. hip hop was just like, we got you, hip hop, and people couldn't really, and I guess parents couldn't really understand what was it, and to the point where I remember when the NWA album came out, my cousin and I, we got our money together, and we were too young to buy CDs. Sure. So we asked like people, and a lot of people were saying no, like, you know, and then eventually somebody said yes. Okay. And we took that music home. Yeah. And we banged hip, and then it was, we knew mom was coming home, fold that, put it under the mattress, you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. And then it became a case of like, how do I want to articulate certain things that are on my chest. Yeah. I want to talk about losing my dad. I want to talk about the frustration of police officers just stopping you for no reason. I want to talk about, you know, people being killed, and I want to say something. Yeah. And so it starts off like you're listening to hip hop, and then you start jotting down your own rhymes. Right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you're like, you're like, it is what it is. Yeah, I'm just telling you the real and how I feel. Yeah, to be free is what I wanna be. There, to be healed, or no longer see my people killed here. Yeah, and you just start jotting. And then all of a sudden, one day my cousin of mine comes up and he's like, I know some other guys that rap, and then your world just starts to expand. Yeah. You know, and you start learning from other people. And hip hop has just been one of those things that I think for me as a young black man saved my life. Yeah. Saved my life. Introduced me to, in a stronger sense, to Islam. You know, when you got the people that you're following, and what they, even though they were 5%ers.
It's an offshoot though, right? I mean, these guys all started with Islam, right?
Right.
Yeah. You know? So all the 5%ers.
Yeah, and then you start reading certain books, which, let's call it by forbidden authors, which we won't mention. Yeah. But if you want to just inbox us, and we'll let you know who those authors are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
You know.
And I even want to read some of those. You know, I'm always interested in expanding my horizons and learning more and reading more about these things. Yeah. So you were saying, you were saying,
And so from there, it's like the jotting, and then next thing you know, it's like performing. I've always loved being on stage. Yeah. That's one of the things for me as well. Like, whether it was to do with my my sense of not feeling like I was always the strongest academically. Sure. But when I got on stage, it was like nothing mattered. All fear it just disappeared, or if the fear was there, I wanted to face it, you know, head on. And so from there, it was like, all right, cool. Like, if you're gonna jot and perform and get some music down, you know. And now I've got music on iTunes, Spotify, and all of that. Had music go number. My first Krio track was a friend came up to me, my manager at the time, and he was like, I dare you to write a song in Krio. And I'm like, bruv, you know I can't even speak Creole properly. Right. Why am I gonna do that to myself to get myself? And then he knew I love herbal tea, right? So then he was like, I'll buy you a whole box of herbal tea. Okay. I said, eh? Like, oh, no, well, his workplace, he was like, I'll get you a whole box of herbal tea. I was like, deal. Do the track called Noto PlayPlay. Okay. Noto PlayPlay goes #1 in Nigeria.
Nice.
Okay. And I'm like, I've been doing English for how many years? No #1. I do one track in Krio. Right. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, cool, I'm ready to write more songs in Krio now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And Krio is an actual written spoken language. We talked about this before in Sierra Leone. It's a lot like Nigerian Pidgin, right? It's not an actual official language in Nigeria, but a lot of people speak it. But if you hear Nigerians speak their Pidgin, it's just like our Creole. But we have a written language, Creole. Yeah. So it sounds a lot like, so that makes sense that it would go with #1 in Nigeria. Yeah. Like, if you guys listen to Afrobeats, you'll hear some phrases that maybe don't sound like English. It's their Pidgin, and it sounds a lot like Creole.
Should I give them a taste?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
We get some Facebook superstars. They know they go foul. Engineer, no master the track. They don't begin shout. You know what I mean? Like just like the whole idea of, and I was poking fun when people are releasing music but not really respecting the art form in its quality sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we speak about this in the sense of like, hey, if we're gonna put something out and represent, let's do our utmost to do it to the best quality that we can get it out.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So we went over a lot, a broad spectrum of things. Is there anything that I missed? Anything else that you want to say to the people out there?
Of course. Tell it in the booth when troops attack tribes. Bullets let loose, snatch the lives of the poor. Try to imagine. I chose this rapping to awaken the hood by the grass worn and blazed by the children. Where women pour waterfalls, innocents die black in the law. For justice we march back and forth. Get ignored, angry, deported and caught, pressed on the floor. It's a liberty being birthed in war. We're that sponge generation, soaking up the songs of amazing grace, stolen from the cotton. Fields making slaves, now I'm filled with a rage that's controlled on the page, aired out on the stage. My poetry's far-fetched from my phase. My purpose get heard and inspired back to faith. Skirts no bigger than belts and high folk. Men that were raised by hell and harsh strokes. Let's go.
Fire. Acts for real, for real. I love conscious rap that tells a story. It was like so visual. Oh man, that was dope. That was dope. I can't wait to hear more. And on that note, how can people find your music?
Please tune in with Alim Kamara on all platforms. Literally just type in Alim Kamara and you will see Dead Gang. There, we'll be there live.
Oh yeah, big gang.
We'll be there. So yeah, iTunes, Spotify, Audio Mac, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok.
On all platforms.
All platforms.
AlimKamara.
That's
Nice.
the one.
All right, cool. And it'll all be in the description, of course. All of the platforms where you can find everything will be there. And then on the workshop front. So I know it's not just Sierra Leone.
Yep.
It's West Africa as a whole. For those people who are out there that want to support in that effort, getting you into schools and even making introductions, where can they find you for that?
So go to alimkamara.com. That's the best way, and it has a link to my storytelling site. And my thing for me is really to definitely take this across Africa. It just so happened that UK and Sierra Leone are the bases, you know, where I'm based, but let's take this global. Let's remind people of young people, because the mission of the Djelis was to inspire people and remind them of who they are.
Absolutely.
And so that's my mission. And when I do workshops, it's not just storytelling. That I'm doing traditional storytelling. Also look at Black and African history, you know, and fuse that in to say this is part of storytelling. So there's biographical storytelling, traditional storytelling, historical storytelling. So even looking at figures, etc.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. Alim, this has been a great conversation. There's going to be more off camera too. We got a lot to catch up on, and I got some introductions I want to make for you too. There's a couple people I think that could really benefit from what you do. So beautiful. I'm looking forward to it. So guys, thanks for watching. If you like it, go ahead and give a thumbs up. Make sure you write some comments in the description. As always, you'll let me know if I missed any questions, if there's anything you want to know. We'll make sure we follow up and answer those questions. Of course, as I mentioned, Alim's information is all going to be in the description. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next video.
So guys, that's Alim. Very interesting guy, right? I mean, the guy got bars. He can rap. And also just a really incredible story. Great energy, great person. These are the kinds of people that you meet when you come to Sierra Leone and you spend time here, whether that's May or December or whenever that is. You build your network here and you meet so many other diasporans from Sierra Leone doing their thing, lending their talents to Sierra Leone, and just overall just helping rise Sierra Leone to the level that, you know, it needs to be back to where it was in its previous iteration. So guys, if you like this content, or if there's anything that you felt like I missed, make sure you comment below. Let us know what you think of Alim, of his rap music, of his rap. You got a chance to hear him freestyle a little bit, or you got a chance to hear him rap a little bit. So let us know in the comments what you think about how he rapped. Let us know what you think about his story overall, and if you find it interesting. And if I missed any questions, of course, sometimes I forget to ask stuff. If you have any questions that you feel like I missed, let us know in the comments below. His information is going to be in the description, so we'll ensure that you can find him anywhere on social media. So with that, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you all on the next video.
The two of us is soaking a hot tub. It's been a long day, traffic on the hot block. We get dangerous, see we got regular. I can't make this up, you on the conscious. Show us a nappy head, now I never had shit. Now you wanna see when you start laughing, man. How you got me in this pool with a Q-set? Opening up bullets together like a closet. The man that put me down to the club nights. Can't be the few ships, when I rap nights. Roses, red candles, always on the moon, right? Chosen size and queens, always on my song coming, but I want her to let me in. Hey! Tonight we cross the line, I want to give you some tea. Hey! Hey! Find the people, come now. Find the people, come now. Say my day, you say what's up, my day. What's up, my day. What's up, my day. What's up? And yourself now can turn to addiction. Ever since I let her when I go shop there. Taxi, taxi, take me to the fiction. I want wine is black, red, ready to stay. Wherever shopping it has nothing to put on. Even after the 100, what about this one? Trainers got any place done already. Swear them rub you, they get any party. He kill my MC love on a potty. Sammy money now.
Alright guys, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, like, comment, and share it with your friends. Alright, see you on the next video.
Yo, the two of us is soaking a hot tub. It's been a long day, traveling out a hot plug. We get dangerous, see we got regular. I can't make this up, you on the conscience. Show was a nutty head, now I never had shit. Now you wanna see where this one African okay. How you got me in this pool with a Q-sit, opening up bullets together like a closet. They better put me down to the club nights. Can't be the full ships, when I rock nights. Roses, red candles, always on the moon, right? Josephine size and queens, always on ice. I'm coming, but I want her to let me in. Hey! Tonight we cross the line, I want to give you something. Hey! Hey! Find the people, come now. Find the people, come now. Say my day, you say what's up, my day. What's up, my day. What's up, my day. What's up? And yourself now can turn to addiction. Ever since I let her when I go shop there. Taxi, taxi, take me to the fiction. I want wine is black, red, ready to stay. Wherever shopping it has nothing to put on. Even after the 100, what about this one? Trainers got any place done already. Swear them rub you, they get any party. He kill my MC love on a potty. Sammy money now.